Alright, so just real quick, what we did here for a throttle cable. Cable itself is from a Civic, 2000 Civic. Truck bracket, had to mess with that little connector piece. That was the piece that goes through the firewall of the Civic. Messed with it a little bit to make it fit, just drilled the holes out a little bigger and whatever not. This bracket here was, I believe it was a firewall or fender holder for this thing. Whatever. It works, keeps it out. Just use that 8mm for the fuel rail. Marked mint. Moving around to this side. This bracket here, hold on. This bracket here is the one that bolts onto the intake to hold the throttle stop. This throttle is actually on backwards because this end was on the throttle body on the Civic. Wow, that looks gross in the camera. That paint job. Anyway. And then, yeah, you guys see me modify the arm a little bit just to accept it. And now, that's on the stopper. So we've got a nice little bit of slack and wide open throttle, which is there. And it is on the back stopper there. So that's mint. That should work. I will have to, at some point, put another bolt in the secondary hole there. Down was a little far to reach, but I don't feel like taking the intake off just to drill a hole in the firewall so I can stick a bolt in there. So we will see what we can do, but right now she's solid. We'll see if it holds up. All right, next up on the list here is fan wiring. So I gotta figure out which one of these wires does what. I'm assuming black is a ground. Not sure if there'd be 2 grounds in here, or if it's all 3 of these together and then just 1 ground. This is a 2-speed fan, I believe, so we're just gonna wire them up so that the high speed is the only speed. I do have, of course I can't get in the car from that way. I do have the relay wired in for it. It's one of these, whichever one says fan. Power to fans. Woo, go fans. So I need to run a cable out there to fire those bad boys up. They're triggered by the ECU, and I'm gonna need to plug into that and turn them on. So I believe all I need to do is just run power out to them now from here all the way to the front, and find a place to ground that one up here. I guess before we do that, maybe we should put the jumper cables onto the battery and just see what does what before we get all carried away. Alright, so we got my trusty old cables wired up to the battery here. Power. See what we can figure out. Black on black. Put negative to the negative. What's this? Nope, that's also a negative. Well, I'm going to put both of these negatives together. Give it all the grounding issues. Positive. 1 speed, 2 speed. Okay, simple enough. Alright, so we got all the wires run, pulled back through the firewall, shielded, or wrapped, whatever it is. So that should, in theory, trigger our stuff. Now, I got the HP tuners up here, and I already was in here. And I set it, first fan, you can't see that. Focus. Anyway, the first fan, or the first stage, I guess, set to come on at 5 degrees. And then off at 0. And so is the second one. And the only reason I did that was so it's getting a little bit, well, it ain't late yet, but I don't want to run the car. It should be able to make it work like this. Okay, so just write this in here real quick. I think I'm going to just have to recheck my trigger and make sure that that's actually the wire that's supposed to be. Oh, hold the bus. So as I'm rechecking my trigger, and it's a big mess down there. What is this? Oh, fan ECM. Well, maybe that's why we're not getting it. I feel dumb. Moving on. Alright, so it's looking like I had to dig out my schematics here. Pin 42 on the blue. I think that's what it was. Yeah, pin 42. Okay, I didn't even pin it. Oh, you won't be able to see nothing. Anyway, I'm gonna pin that in real quick, and that's why you keep all the ones that you pulled out in case you have a situation like this. Alright, so we got her all pinned in, wherever it went. This one. Yeah. And I still wasn't getting any fan on. Now I have it set to come on at 5 degrees Celsius. You can see there 7 degrees, and I still have no fans. Nothing. So I just pulled the relay off, and I just want to check, make sure that is our trigger. Make sure the relay was wired in properly. I got my probe hooked up to the battery, so we're going to give the one where the trigger pin was located a little bit of juice. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I don't know if... Turn that off and kill the battery here. I don't know if it needs to be running for it to trigger that. Alright, so that was a good little test. I just hooked it back up. We'll just leave it in here, and maybe I'll fire it up tomorrow when it's daytime and it won't disrupt the neighbors. But at least I know that that circuit works from the relay all the way to the front. And yeah, we just got to diagnose our trigger here. See what we can do. I'm sure it'll work. Then when I turn it off, turn the ECU off. Alright, so as best as I can figure out, I need a speed sensor for the computer to read, for the fans to come on, and the AC to come on, and there's a whole bunch of little things that needs to see a speed before it'll engage. That last little clip you just seen of the fans running when I shut the ECU off, or the switch off, which basically would be key off, is they have a runtime when the ECU was turned off, and that was a couple seconds runtime. So I know that circuit's working. And I'm not sure how it works with, and I might be totally wrong on this, I'm not sure how it works. Like if you're driving and you come to a stop sign and you're parked, but your AC is on and your fans are on, or if you're sitting there idling. So I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it just needs to see a speed sensor. Maybe I could just plug one in and then it would work. I have no idea, but I don't need a speed sensor for my car because I did actually machine the cable that goes from the speedometer in the car, and I machined it to fit in the receiver for the transmission because they're both cable operated. So, I mean, that works with the transmission, and I'm not sure how accurate it is. I'd have to put a GPS on it and drive it and see. So, not totally sure where I go from here. I think I'll probably just put the fan on a switch for now, and yeah, tuck up all that wiring and all those relays and everything. That's just temporary, just so I could diagnose if something like this happened before it's all tucked away under the dash and wired in properly. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. So anyway, thanks for sticking around, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.